grant recipients.
Great, thank you, Jim. NANETS 22 grants over the past 10 years were all made possible because of the generous support of the research and development divisions of pharmaceutical companies and nonprofit research foundations. This year's grants were supported by Ipsen Biopharmaceuticals and the Neuroendocrine Tumor Research Foundation. We are profoundly grateful for your support. Thank you very much. Don and I also express our sincerest thanks to our committee and all our reviewers who did outstanding work this year. We had a record number of reviewers for each abstract and each grant. Each grant and each abstract received at least 5 independent reviews, which is off the charts compared to the years prior. So we feel very confident in the objectivity and the merit-based rating of our abstracts and our grants. The BTSI Grant Award is an award that the research committee is proud to present based on a record number of submissions that we received this year. The submissions were very strong, and it's very encouraging to see the depth and innovation of the research being conducted and proposed all over North America. This year's BTSI grant is being awarded to Ho-Hin Ir, PhD at the University of Iowa. Ho, are you here? Please come up. Dr. Ir's research will address the development of in vitro Dr. Ir's research will address the development of in vitro preclinical models for small bowel neuroendocrine tumor drug testing. Dr. Ir we'd like to invite Lee Skellerman, who's the director of the NetRF, and Dr. John Conkey, who's the director of research of NetRF, to come up and please accept this award.
Thank you, Eric. The mission of the NET Research Foundation is to support and fund research to find improved treatments and cures for the hundreds of thousands of patients living with neuroendocrine cancer. We have done that very successfully by collaborating with NANETS over the past several years, as well as funding research directly. Since we started, we funded $22 million in research, and we know that we are not finding all of those cures and treatments yet. So this is a very important collaboration for us. I think we have a focus to support younger researchers so they can find the support to dedicate themselves to NET research, and we share that with NANETS as well. So we look forward to Dr. Ir's work, and we appreciate the collaboration of all of you in the room. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eric. It has been a really terrific experience working as a new co-chair of the research committee, and as Eric mentioned, both of the BTSI and the NCIS submissions were terrific. This year's 2019 NANETS Clinical Investigator Scholarship is awarded to Sarbajit Mukherjee, MD, MS from Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center. Dr. Mukherjee's clinical research will address circulating tumor or ctDNA as a biomarker in high-grade neuroendocrine tumor. So Dr. Mukherjee, please come on up. So Dr. Mukherjee will be joined by Tom Beveridge, who is the Director of Medical Affairs Oncology at Ipsen Biopharmaceuticals.
I'm trying to go paperless. It's more hard than you think. So good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely delighted to be here. This is my second year I've been given the honor of saying a few words about this award. First of all, I'd like to congratulate again Dr. Sarbajit Mukherjee. I know there's fierce competition for this award, and it must be a very tough decision for the NANETS Research Committee to find the right recipient. Dr. Mukherjee has already received multiple peer-reviewed grants, been published in high-impact journals such as Nature Medicine, and serves on national guideline committees such as the NCCN and ASCO. His work on analyzing circulating tumor DNA samples in patients with high-grade neuroendocrine tumors will be invaluable in determining how the biology of the disease changes over time and how we can build optimal sequencing of targeted therapies. But I'm also here to say a few words about Dr. Eda Gomez-Panzani, in whose honor the award is made. In short, she was the most extraordinary of people. Her last position in a long line of executive leadership roles was the VP of Clinical Development and Scientific Affairs at Turcica, which of course was acquired by Ipsen in 2008. She was the driving force behind the development and the FDA approval of Somatuline Depot for both improving progression-free survival in GEP-NET patients, as well as treating adults with carcinoid syndrome. Eda sadly passed away from cancer in 2015, but her legacy with her life work, and particularly Somatuline Depot, carries on as patients around the world continue to benefit from her work. Last year, I spoke of Eda's passion. Her passion for improving patient lives, her passion for extreme sports such as being on the national skydiving team, deep sea diving with sharks, racing her yellow Maserati around the track, and earning a black belt in Shotokan Karate. Her passion for volunteering to help people in countries in crisis, spending 18-hour days in tents as a trauma surgeon working with societies and groups such as Flying Doctors, Doctors Without Borders, and Help the Children, for example. But her professional achievements were just as substantial. Starting out as a trauma surgeon and ER doctor in Mexico City, where she grew up and earned her medical degrees, she transitioned to Procter & Gamble as a director of clinical research, and in the mid-1990s created and initiated the first 1-800 response system for all healthcare-related phone calls in Mexico and Central America. After 25 years, this is still in place and still used today. Over her career, she developed new techniques for conducting clinical trials, published numerous research articles, and grew an international reputation for effectively managing trials for new treatments. In 2011, she contributed to a book entitled Global Clinical Trials, Effective Implementation and Management. Not the sexiest of titles, I know, but the Journal of American Medical Association reviewed this book as a landmark publication, and I quote, it will be the standard reference book for global clinical trials for many years to come. She was an inspiration to all who knew her, and this award in turn inspires a new generation of scientists, physicians, and I think that's something that she'd be very proud of. In touch, she touched countless lives through her professional work, her friendship, and her devotion to patients. As one final word to my fellow industry colleagues, please continue to fund and support research by investigators and organizations such as NANETS. Only through these collaborative partnerships can we truly make an impact on the disease, and in doing so, bring the latest innovations and best therapeutics we can to improve patient lives. Dr. Mukherjee, I congratulate you again, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tom, and congratulations again to Dr. Mukherjee and to Dr. Ear. So we look forward to hearing about the outcomes of your research as a future NANETS at future NANETS conferences. Jim?
Thank you very much, Don. Okay. So, moving on. Every so often a volunteer comes along who is so extraordinary in their generosity of time, knowledge, and commitment that they stand out from the rest in a really significant way. And today we're going to be awarding an outstanding service award to one such individual, and that person is Bill Go. He's one of the members who has been around since the founding of NANETS and served as one of our first board members and later on our strategic planning committee that set a new course for our medical society. This shows Bill at a young age on the left here. He was born in the Philippines, and at age 3, the Japanese invaded the Philippines in World War II, and I think World War II ended when he was 7. His parents owned a grocery store and a bakery, and Bill mentioned that he suffered a little bit with dyslexia, and when he finally met his future wife, Friska, in medical school, she would correct his love letters for him. He did graduate at the top of his class from Santo Tomas University, and during medical school he held 3 different jobs. I'm trying to remember what they are. So one was collecting stool and urine samples for somebody, another was arranging for deliveries of chewing tobacco, and the other was taking care of your sister's 5 children. So that just sounds very busy. So he had to move to America to get away from that, I guess. And in 1963, he showed up in Minneapolis, and I was there for a year or so. Then he went to the Mayo Clinic, and he did his internal medicine residency there. And this is a picture of Bill and Friska in a warm August day in Rochester, Minnesota. Then he did his gastroenterology fellowship there, and then went to Toronto for 2 years for research. But they brought him back, and he was an assistant professor starting there in 1972. He quickly rose to be an associate professor, then a full professor within 3 years. And his research interest during this time was really research on the endocrine and exocrine pancreas. He's done seminal work in pancreatic cancer, pancreatitis, developing enzyme therapy for patients with pancreatic insufficiency, and just a wide number of different things that we don't have time to mention. He did start an NCI serum immunodiagnostic bank at the Mayo Clinic, and then he was recruited to the NIH to be the director of the NIDDK, which is one of the major institutes at the National Institutes of Health. He also held a few other positions while there, showing his interest in nutrition as well. He then was recruited to UCLA, where he went as the chair of the Department of Medicine, and then he did many different things at UCLA, where he continues to be now, establishing the Nutrition Education Unit, co-founding the Center for Human Nutrition, and being a director of the UCLA Center for Excellence in Pancreatic Disease, amongst others. But we know him better for his other important contributions, and one was being involved from the beginning of this society, starting in 2006, and he was on our board of directors until 2009. He also co-founded the American Pancreatic Association, was its president 2 different times, and most importantly to our organization, he's the founding editor of our journal, Pancreas, and he has been extremely generous, even though many of us have published in this journal on topics that are unrelated to the pancreas, but he is very willing to accept any neuroendocrine papers. So we've written several small bowel papers, and if somebody has a Merkel cell, he'll take it. I mean, he loves neuroendocrine, and this journal has been really, really important. They've also published our guidelines. Now, in 2010, Pancreas published this. It chronicled the early development of NANETS from a meeting in Portland where people came together. They were incorporated as a nonprofit organization a year later. And then the first mission was really to develop some NANETS guidelines. And it sounded like, I wasn't really involved in the organization there, but it sounded like there was a lot of chaos, or a lot of strong personalities. Some are listed on this slide, and it was sort of like herding cats, it sounded like. And it really was Bill's leadership to bring these people together after 2 years of bickering to finally publish these guidelines. Bill, I think, said this was the hardest thing he's ever done. So our thanks to that, because without those early guidelines, NANETS, that's what really kind of put us on the map. So with respect to other things Bill has had over 500 manuscripts, book chapters, and editorials. He's co-edited 11 books, and he's trained over 90 fellows. So he's had a huge impact. But if you ask Bill, besides the many awards he's received, which are listed here, which I will not bother to read, the greatest thing in his life has been his family, his wife Friska, and his 3 children, all who are MDs or MD PhDs. Friska is a neurologist who started the sleep center at the UCLA, so a very high achieving family. He has 7 grandchildren, and this just shows Bill carving a pig at a family function. And this is just a beautiful picture of Bill and his family. What a great legacy. And when I asked Bill specifically, what do you think his greatest achievement has been? He said he's fulfilled the American dream. So Bill, I want to invite you up here to receive this award for outstanding service.
Thank you, Jim. This award is really belong to all of us, not to me, but to all of us. We have funded this organization only 12 years. 24 people were there, hosted by Rod. Rod Premier is here in Oregon. And Rod, see where we were, 24 of us, and where we are right now. And it's really the outstanding achievement of the leadership. And you, all of you, have contributed to this. And I think, given to what we have done the last 12 years, things have moved so quickly. Under your leadership, we have now a lot of drugs, a new imaging modality. We have now an identity. The guideline is really very, very important. And I told Jim, those 2 years after Merbuda doing the 8 guidelines, was a hell for me. Tried to keep everybody online to get it done, but we got it published. The journal is very important for us because it's the way that we communicate it out. We are a very small community, and neuroendocrine tumor papers are not highly cited because there's hardly any work being done, but you guys have contributed it, and hopefully we can continue to expand the science, the diagnosis, and the treatment of this disease for our patient. So this award belongs to all of us. Congratulations to all of you, and hopefully our young colleagues who are now here will also fulfill your dream like I did for the last five decades. Thank you very, very much.
Okay. Well, in addition to Dr. Go, we have another distinguished leader in our field to honor today for lifetime achievement. We've had a number of people receive this award, including several people in the audience. Bob Jensen over here, Tom and Sue Odorisio, Shel Oberg, Larry Coles, and Richard Warner, very important members and contributors to our society. The award today is going to be to Dr. Aaron Vinnick, who's not able to make it today. So we've arranged a live stream presentation. And Josh, is that happening now?
It's been happening for 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
There's people watching it all over the world.
Jeez. Okay. So hopefully Dr. Vinnick and Etta, his wife, are watching this from Virginia, and hello to all the Vinnicks from all of us here at NANETS. And it is my pleasure to ask my colleague and very good friend and former Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Tom Odorisio, to join me at the podium for this morning's recognition.
It is with great pleasure and enthusiasm and joy that I can introduce this year's NANETS Lifetime Achievement Award, given to Dr. Aaron Arthur Vinnick. I'm very grateful to Dr. Howe and the NANETS Board of Directors for inviting me to do this. Sue and I have known Dr. Vinnick and his spouse Etta for 41 years, and 41 years of Dr. Vinnick's 50-year career in academic medicine. The breadth, depth, and validation of this introduction would not have been possible without the enormous effort from Etta Vinnick, a very accomplished and published diabetes educator. She designed and implemented several validated Norfolk quality of life tools for both diabetic neuropathy and neuroendocrine tumors, some already in several languages. During this review process, I felt there was a basic reality I was missing with Dr. Vinnick's comprehensive CV that spanned 5 decades of scholarly excellence. Like any of our members would do under similar circumstances, I had a hard copy of my CV made and then took it to the post office on 9/23/2019, went very early in the morning, and I asked the clerk if she would kindly weigh the 2 resumes for possible postage. She weighed my CV first, and it was 9 ounces. She provided a manila envelope, it's this envelope, saying regular postage will do. She then weighed Dr. Vinnick's CV and went back. It weighed 1 pound, 1 ounce. The clerk presented a priority mail envelope saying this one must be sent by priority mail and that I needed to check with the clerk before mailing it. And so it was very obvious and humbling to realize how much more review and integration was needed to do justice to this remarkable clinical scientist. We began with a general overview. You might call that Aaron Vinnick light. But it's, as you can see, just briefly outlined his productivity. 569 peer-reviewed articles, published abstracts, 142 book chapters, 8 books edited. We decided that to enflesh Dr. Vinnick's CV by defining his perceived character traits and intellectual gifts. So we divided it thusly. We talked about his integrative knowledge base, his focused, disciplined, organized mind, boundless energy, effective productivity, eloquent speaker, writer, educator, and the power of his keen observation. Regarding Dr. Vinnick's integrative knowledge base, a highly accomplished endocrinologist and mutual friend told me a few years ago that Dr. Vinnick is a information vacuum cleaner. From his CV, we can suggest that some of Dr. Vinnick's knowledge base derived in part from his early discipline of a PhD dissertation in free fatty acid and thyroid function in 1970, his regular reviewership of 14 journals, and his contribution on 35 editorial boards. As well, he has been a regular abstract reviewer for the American Diabetes Association, Endocrine Society, and the NIH proceedings for several years. Regarding Dr. Vinnick's focus, discipline, and organization, his authorship of 2 of the first 8 NANETS consensus guidelines in 2010 clearly exemplify his ability to integrate different opinions and suggestions from working committees comprised of different disciplines and to be able to produce coherent, balanced consensus publications. This was highlighted as well in the NANETS recent memo on 9/27. As well, in one short period of time, in 2017, Dr. Vinnick first authored 12 distinct chapters in neuroendocrine tumors, pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors, for Dr. Lester DeGroot's first edition of a web endotext, which was a full endocrine textbook on web. The next two slides look more carefully at Dr. Vinnick's boundless energy and highly affected productivity. To do this, we separated his two accomplished disciplines into GI neuroendocrinology / NETS and endocrinology, diabetes, especially peripheral neuropathy. As well, we noted his first, second, or senior authorship status of his publications in either discipline. We confirmed that his second position status in his publications in either discipline most often represented major contributing authorship, with first authors being students, residents, and fellows, or other senior investigators. Of the 569 peer-reviewed publications, 216 papers were of GI neuroendocrinology and/or NETS. He was first, second, or senior author on 83% of the publications. Most impressive to me was the first authorship on 34% of all of his publications in both disciplines. Regarding his 142 book chapters, again, first, second, or senior author on 83%, but this time first author on 67% of his chapters. If you are thinking that most of these publications were case reports with reviews, there were only 6 out of his total number of peer-reviewed publications. I had the pleasure of being a co-author on one case report of a VIP secreting mastocytoma in an 8-month-old child, and I will tell you it was a very good article. Dr. Vinnick presented published abstracts, preliminary communications, and published panel discussions between 1969 and 2019 are no less impressive. He was again first, second, or senior on 84% of the abstract publications. Most impressive to me were most impressive were the presentations and publications of abstracts in 41 different proceedings, symposia, societies, and congresses. These were counted just once. He has been an active member and contributor both at the University of Michigan and at East Virginia Medical School on 57 divisional, departmental, college committees, and extramural, federal, or standing professional societies between 1978 and 2019. Dr. Vinnick is internationally and nationally recognized as an eloquent speaker and prolific writer. Less well known has been his excellence as a medical educator and mentor. He was recognized recently by the East Virginia College of Medicine when he received the Dean's Outstanding Faculty Award, recognizing excellence in the college's 3 missions of scholarship, medical education, and excellence in his discipline. In Dr. Vinnick's instance, that would be both diabetic peripheral neuropathy and neuroendocrine tumors. As well, Dr. Vinnick has been PI or co-I on 91 distinct grants from NIH, National Private Associations, and societies since 2000. He has precepted and mentored over 132 international, national, and College of Medicine medical students, all of whom were given clinical research projects, and many of whom accomplished abstract presentations and/or publications since 1970. This slide introduces Dr. Vinnick's gift of well-informed observation. I'm sure you are all familiar with the quote by Louis Pasteur that chance, and in the context of today's talk, we added observation favors a prepared mind. The final 2 slides point up an excellent example of Dr. Vinnick's power of informed observation. Dr. Vinnick and his co-worker, Dr. Rosenberg, established a cellophane wrap method around the golden hamster pancreas, which would regularly generate ductal epithelial hyperplasia and nocidioblastosis. The two of them were trying to use this method to make a ductal cell carcinoma cell line. When Dr. Vinnick saw the histology, he said, "We do not have a cancer model, but we have something more interesting, islet cell proliferation." Between 1987 and 2009, Dr. Vinnick, first author, senior author with Dr. Rosenberg and colleagues, published 19 papers on the protein extract from the pancreas that they termed ilotropin. Its biologically active gene fragment is neogenesis-associated protein, or NGAP, the latter preventing diabetes in 50% of streptozotocin-induced diabetic models in the hamster. Dr. Vinnick and his colleagues published the definitive NGAP article in the Journal of Clinical Investigation in 1997. The conclusion from their exhaustive work stated, NGAP is a constituent of ilotropin protein capable of initiating ductal cell proliferation, a requisite for the islet, especially the beta cell that secretes insulin, neogenesis. To date, Dr. Vinnick and his colleagues have had 5 U.S. patents granted, as well preliminary clinical studies have been initiated at 3 universities. Having established that Dr. Vinnick eats a little and sleeps less, we also needed to note his extra academic interest. In addition to woodworking, Dr. Vinnick has been accomplished in soccer, tennis, squash, water skiing, snow skiing, kayaking, kiteboarding, and windsurfing. It's a Nike Gatorade ad. That's what that is. As well, he and Etta have recently taken up Argentine tango. I sense you're waiting for me to mention my sports. They are, for the most part, indoor and include billiards, ping pong, bowling, and most recently bocce ball, which I have been playing with my more senior first cousins, according to the way they showed it in Godfather 2. These pictures are the pictures that we know Dr. Sue and I have seen many times, and that's Dr. Vinnick windsurfing on at least the 2 occasions, one in Mackinac Island and the one in Maui. This one takes my breath away, as it demonstrates the importance of being able to turn a windsurfing board. I need to share that with you because Dr. Sue and I have attempted to do windsurfing at Dr. Vinnick's urging. Dr. Sue would consistently get up on the board and with perfect balance go straight out to the center of the lake and or ocean. She had difficulty turning, and the boat would just simply go out and help her turn, and she'd get back safely. For me, I failed to get up on the board after 18 tries, and I flopped over the board in fatigue, was ignominiously towed back to shore by the patrol boat. This is Arthur Vinnick soaking up the room for information. And there's Etta and Arthur below that massive statue in front of the studio where they took Argentine and tango. This is their 50th wedding anniversary, and to them we say, Arthur and Etta, we wish you peace and continued joy together. Dr. Vinnick has now transitioned from still photographs and selfies with patients to a talented artist's perception captured in this caricature portraiture of Dr. Vinnick. For me, the artist has captured some of Dr. Vinnick's spirits and a small piece of his divinely forged soul. I say to Dr. Vinnick, Mazel Tov to you, Aaron Arthur, for clearly accomplishing your mission and seeing that validated by your peers with this Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you.
Tom, I want to give you this award, which will help you mail to Arthur. That was a great talk, and you know, Aaron, Etta, I echo Tom's sentiments in thanking you for your contribution to NANETS in the field of medicine. I feel personally fortunate to know you, and our medical community is blessed by your outstanding work. And it seems appropriate to end today's presentation with his recognition. The work of our medical neuroendocrine tumor disease is the heart of everything we do, and I want to thank everybody here for supporting our mission, and to safe travels for all of you who are leaving today. Can I get that slide? And I hope all of you will join us next year in Montreal. Thank you very much.